Hi, thanks for joining us. If you participated in our social media challenge, look for an email about your prize and get excited. We'll post a recording of this webinar on our website, so don't worry about frantically taking notes. Just sit back and soak it all in. Most of you attended the first webinar in this series focused on discussing the ins and outs of recycling in Franklin County. No worries if you didn't. We'll share a link to this recording and our newly created digital guide for event waste reduction in our follow-up email. This guide is intended to serve as another tool in your event organizer toolbox to help make your event more sustainable. For those who didn't make it to Webinar 1, SWACO is a public agency dedicated to waste reduction, reuse, recycling, and safe disposal in Franklin County. We offer a range of programs you can learn more about on our snazzy new website, swaco.org. Today, we will explore specific best management practices for sustainably managing materials at events and a few of SWACO's assistance programs. Before we jump into the content, it's always nice to know who's talking. My name's Alex Slaymaker, and I'm SWACO's outreach specialist. My background is in urban sustainability, and I've been heavily involved with zero waste events and training development for 5 years. Now at SWACO, I work on a diverse range of initiatives, including helping event organizers sustainably manage materials. In this role, I have the pleasure of collaborating with my co-presenter, Christy Higginbotham.
Thank you, Alex, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm a programs administrator at SWACO, and I've been fortunate to be with the organization for over 17 years. I currently specialize in assisting school districts and events to implement waste reduction and diversion programs. I also administer SWACO's event waste reduction and community waste reduction grant programs, which are available to event organizers, nonprofits, communities, and schools. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any questions about any of these programs.
We encourage you to type questions or comments as they pop into your head, and we will get to as many as possible in Q&A. If we don't get to your question, I promise we didn't forget about you. We'll follow up via email to ensure you get the information you need. New questions will definitely arise while you implement these ideas, so never hesitate to reach out to us. Just like Christy said, we're always available and willing to help. With the housekeeping out of the way, on to the fun stuff. You are a successful event planner, so you already know the importance of health and safety permits, traffic management, and promotion. These are all components of your planning process. Planning is also a critical ingredient for hosting an event achieving waste reduction and recycling goals. Internal and external conversations about these topics need to begin when you start your planning process. Today, we'll discuss what type of questions to ask your vendors, your team, and yourself. As a side note, I try really hard not to say waste unless it's in reference to waste reduction, because in a circular economy, there's no such thing as waste, just resources or materials circulating from one user to another. We encourage you to adopt this type of mindset and help us build a society that helps manage resources more sustainably. This graphic of the event delivery process breaks down the steps you can take in each phase of planning to reduce waste and responsibly manage your waste stream for increased economic and environmental benefits. Take a minute to read over. I know there's a lot of information here. And while you're looking, consider which phase is typically most challenging for you. I'm going to give you a second to check it out, and then I'm going to open a poll that's going to ask you which phase is most challenging, and it might cover your screen. So look at it one last time. I'm about to open the poll. All right, take a few seconds. Let us know what you think about what you struggle with the most. We got a few answers coming in. It looks like implementation is definitely the top choice at this point. Initiation, all right, interesting. All right, I'm gonna close it and share the results. These results are pretty interesting. Interesting, okay. So in the survey at the end of the webinar, feel free to provide specific examples of what's challenging within these categories, especially the implementation category, and we'll see if we can help remove some of these barriers for you. Consider using this tool to action plan your next event and help reduce, hopefully, some of the issues with implementation specifically. To this list, I would also add, try to select a venue with waste reduction infrastructure already in place and co-create contracts with your haulers and vendors to ensure your goals are met. These are the main categories of content we're going to hit today that apply to most events and will help make it easier to have an eco event. After I hit on the major categories, Christy will close out the webinar by sharing a few high-level overview of SWACO's financial assistance and BIN loan programs. Let's start with a few examples of how planning can help you swap out disposable items for reusables to save your event money and reduce waste. Before ordering your materials and promo items, review your list of what you'd like to order and ask yourself, is there a reusable or recyclable alternative for this item? For example, consider using stamps instead of wristbands to show proof of payment or age. You can also be mindful of waste when considering decor. Reusable or donatable decor is more environmentally friendly than single-use decor like balloons, and it can be just as festive. Continuing with the reuse theme, provide reusable name tags instead of stickers. I know you want the backing of that sticker to be recyclable, we all do, but the reality of it is neither the sticker nor the backing is accepted for recycling. Are you thinking, well, that sounds good, but I'm worried people wouldn't actually return the reusable tags? I hear ya. Consider incentivizing attendees to return their name tags after the event by raffling off a prize. Along the same lines, your attendees are partners in your waste reduction efforts. So marketing prior to the event can encourage attendees to bring their own cup, bag, bottle, and/or utensils. No matter how much clever marketing you put out there, all your attendees won't remember to bring their own though. So for events involving alcohol, give out reusable tasting cups that also serve as promo items instead of disposable cups. This cost may be included with an entry ticket, so you don't have to eat that whole fee. Grandview Dig Fest last weekend gave out reusable cups that even changed color when filled with liquid. It was pretty awesome and created excitement about reuse for the attendees. As a reminder, plastic and bioplastic cups are not recyclable in Franklin County. Only bottleneck plastics are accepted, so make it easy to go reusable. If you opt not to offer any type of cup, hand out bottles and cans instead of using kegs, since both of these materials are accepted for recycling. You might also want to make sure your attendees are hydrated, especially in the summer, so consider ways to make refilling water bottles easy by indicating water fountains or offering water stations. Some events profit off selling water bottles. We totally understand this, and offering refillable options might actually conflict with your bottom line. If your event depends on water bottle revenue, having a robust recycling program will ensure your economic bottom line does not have to be jeopardized, and your environmental stewardship will continue. The waste reduction lens may also be applied to promo. Printing costs can add up fast. So can the amount of natural resources used to print guidebooks or other items. Consider creating a simple web page or PDF guidebook to inform your guests. You don't need to develop an app or anything fancy to get the information you want across in a waste-free format. This online guide or program is also a great opportunity to share tips on how to be a more sustainable event guest. While planning your purchases, you will also be writing contracts and organizing partners. Contract language is a critical piece of expectation setting and helps ensure vendors understand expectations. Working with vendors to maximize the number of materials distributed that are reusable or recyclable will make your job much easier. In order to write contracts requiring certain items to be used, you need to make sure you know what's accepted for recycling in Franklin County and what your compost company can process. This is part of the reason we dove into the acceptance criteria for recycling so deeply in webinar number 1. If you missed this, please check out the recording linked in our follow-up email. Consider adding these requirements to your contracts as appropriate. Collect and break down cardboard for recycling. Flattened boxes take up far less space and can save you money since recycling bins can fit more when boxes are compressed, which results in fewer pickups. Provide bulk condiment dispensers instead of packets. We've all seen Taco Bell hot sauce packets in the most random places because people grab 15 and use 2. You don't want this problem at your event. It's a PR nightmare and will cost you more money in litter pickup. A low-hanging fruit opportunity is requiring vendors swap out styrofoam for other packaging materials that can be diverted from the landfill. In fact, Columbus-based ComFest, which is this weekend, banned polystyrene, aka styrofoam, over 7 years ago from their events. Another strategy is to make napkins available upon request only and ask vendors to give out a limited amount. As with the hot sauce, people's eyes get bigger than their needs when given the option to grab for themselves. Sometimes what they realize they didn't need becomes litter or unnecessary waste at the vendor's expense. Also, require vendors in your contracts to recycle and clean up their space after the event is over. If you think it'll be necessary, you can even add a fine penalty for failure to comply. When developing contracts with your haulers, view them as an important partner and resource critical to your success. Share your waste reduction goals and require your haulers to report locations where materials were dropped off and diversion metrics for how much material was collected. Also, it's important to require your haulers to label the roll-off or dumpster bins so users don't get confused about what goes where. Staff emptying your bins may perceive an unlabeled green dumpster roll-off as composting or landfill when it was actually recycling. Effective labeling will ensure contamination from staff isn't an issue. From an infrastructure perspective, signage is one of the most essential elements for a successful event. In addition to roll-off or dumpster signage, community maps and sorting signage are critical for your success. Instead of handing out maps or general information about the event, consider creating large communal maps in high-traffic areas indicating water bottle refilling stations, waste reduction stations, and other elements. The Arts Fest did a great job creating communal maps a few weeks ago. Keep map contents as general as possible if you have your event at the same place every year so you can reuse it. For example, a festival may label stage 1 and stage 2 instead of saying specific performers and indicate the schedule online. As at sorting stations, it's important to include information about what goes into each bin because many of your guests will be confused about what goes where. Signs help make your guest experience easier so they can feel good about making the correct choice. Some events who are really proud of their recycling highlight their efforts with large banners like you can see in the photo on the right. No matter what signage you're creating, it's important that it's undated and weatherproof to ensure reuse. So, what does a good sorting sign look like? These signs capture most material a guest would be getting rid of at a typical community event that isn't offering composting. We included color coding and realistic images in combination with text because this is a best management practice that leads to higher recycling rates. From a design perspective, it's important for signs to always have landfill at the last option from left to right, since this method is least preferred environmentally. Proper sorting is important because contamination decreases the amount of materials actually recycled and can increase costs. Usually, if a bin is 25% contaminated with plastic cups, for example, it won't actually be recycled unless people are hired to go back through it and sort it out. This version of signage includes a composting option. If and when you get to the point where composting is discussed among your team, it's important to know there are limited but emerging services for compost processors in Central Ohio. Start looking early if you have consistently achieved high recycling rates and you decide to add in composting. I'm sure you're wondering, where can I get signs like these? Our team at SWACO is developing customizable signs that will be available on our website to be branded with your logo. Stay tuned for these resources. Another important ingredient in infrastructure design is ensuring there are waste reduction stations every 30 to 40 yards. This design will help people see bins no matter where they are in the venue. If you don't want to hang out alone, or you don't want to hang out alone at a festival or event, and neither do your bins, be sure to group them. This strategy increases diversion because many people will toss whatever they have in whatever bin they see if it's solo. When considering how many stations you may need for an event, physically draw out the space or venue and map out the projected flow of people and the materials they will be getting rid of. Also, draw out the collection areas or dumpsters. These estimates for how many bins you may need are pulled from the City of Columbus's Green Event Guide. Lastly, consider setting up some of your bins a day or so early depending on how much setup is required. For example, a bike race or a community festival may benefit from setting up bins the day before, since there will probably be a lot of people on site setting up who may have recyclable items like Gatorade bottles. Since efficient material management is all about logistics, a combination of timeline and mapping approaches are helpful when considering how to manage your event material stream. Questions to consider are, what material is likely to be generated? Who is responsible for the management, monitoring, and reporting of each type of material? We all know if you walk out of a meeting with action items and people are assigned to complete them, they're more likely to get done. Material management is no different. Where is each type of material likely to be generated, and where will it go when removed from the event? And lastly, how? How will you know if the event was a success? Consider when aware vendors and attendees will produce certain materials so you can plan when to service bins. For example, 1 hour before your event starts, it may be strategic to do a round of cardboard pickups from the vendors themselves. Create a detailed yet flexible and responsive setup, pickup, and tear down schedule. Outline who's doing what and when, while trying your best to schedule bin pickups on demand and at certain peak times. Also consider how vendors or volunteers can efficiently report full bins. Establishing a feedback system via text message or different colored flags will ensure guests don't get frustrated with overflowing bins. These are all things that, if considered ahead of time, will make your job easier and the event more successful. In that same vein, ensure recycling roll-offs are removed promptly after your event to reduce contamination, and ensure the metrics reported by your hauler accurately reflect what material was generated at your event. Lastly, design your system to give vendors easy access to recycling and landfill dumpsters. You've all heard it before, teamwork makes the dream work. It may be corny, but this cliche rings true with event waste reduction efforts. Recruit from your staff, hire assistants, and/or build a volunteer force. This may require incentivization through free tickets or swag. So, no matter what aspect of waste reduction your team is involved in, they will need to be trained on your organization's goals and what's recyclable or compostable at your event. A best management practice is to include training before the event and a refresher right before the event starts. This training should also include showing volunteers how to safely remove contamination from recycling bins and place it in the landfill bin. If volunteers have multiple shifts, try to use the same people for waste reduction activities so they don't need retrained. Plus, they'll get more efficient each shift and become invested in the outcome of waste reduction. Of course, don't forget to give huge kudos to all your volunteers and staff. Ensure they know it wouldn't have been a success without them. All the bins and signs in the world won't matter if you don't have organized people power. So, what types of roles should be assigned to ensure waste reduction efforts are successful? You're going to need someone to take the leadership role for waste reduction and act as the point person and lead organizer, which is probably going to be you guys on this webinar. Recycling ambassadors acting as guest educators may also serve as bin monitors, checking bin levels and dumping as needed. Ensuring there's a waste reduction teammate dedicated to meeting vendor needs will help a large event go smoothly. Lastly, you want your organization to be perceived as a good community partner. So don't forget to clean up litter in your event area. Sometimes people may do all of these activities or just one. If you have the funds and limited time or expertise around waste reduction, there are local consultants and cleanup teams dedicated to waste reduction who can help out. Now I'll turn it over to Christy.
Great, thanks so much, Alex. Now that we have contracts and logistics down, let's discuss how to communicate your hard work to your attendees. It's important to provide attendees with first-hand information about your efforts and commitment to implementing successful waste reduction activities at your event. They are also part of the team that is going to contribute to your initiative, so engaging and sharing with them the important aspects of your program really is critical. There are many mediums you can use to share this information. These are basic strategies of engagement, but we encourage you to think creatively as you build out your waste reduction efforts. For example, consider engaging guests before the event via your website, registration, and email with prompts about your waste reduction initiative. If you're selling things at an event, like a farmer's market, encourage attendees to bring their own bag also. During the event, stage announcements, utilizing waste reduction station helpers, and signage can help tell your story. Before, during, and after the event, social media and press releases are great mediums for engagement. Tag us at Swaco Green for some guaranteed social media love. Remember, tracking waste diversion is critical to collecting quantifiable data in order to ensure the success of your waste diversion efforts and to set goals for future events. You can't manage what you don't measure. Tracking waste diversion is a critical step for communicating your efforts to the public and continuing to reduce your environmental impact as an event. Start by setting a goal. For example, you could set a goal to increase your waste diversion from 15% to 30%. Or maybe you already are recycling 60% and want to aim for 85% this year. Or if you're just starting out, it's important to gather these numbers so that you have a baseline to benchmark for future events. As we discussed earlier, in order to measure this goal, you will need data from your hauler. If you only plan to have a small amount of recyclable materials and it's feasible, consider bringing your own scale to ensure accuracy. Merely counting bags for landfilling versus bags for recycling doesn't give a very accurate diversion rate. Typically, event waste reduction efforts are reported in terms of a diversion rate, which is calculated by dividing the total weight of all diverted material by the total weight of all material generated. Lastly, be sure to use quantitative and qualitative feedback to evolve your program. Interview a few attendees about recycling and feature them on your social media. Also consider surveying external partners in your internal team, which can provide valuable insight for next time. A few key points to remember from this presentation are: start planning for waste reduction when general planning for the event starts. Don't make it an afterthought. Create strategic contracts with vendors and haulers that will increase your impact while decreasing stress. Offer reusable end-dated signage to inform guests so they can be active partners in waste reduction. Map out your waste reduction station placement and have a dynamic schedule for emptying bins based on expected material and people flow. Train and appreciate your volunteers and staff. Share your efforts and successes before, during, and after the event, and collect robust diversion data to inform your marketing and improvement efforts. Armed with this knowledge, you are already ready to increase your positive environmental and social impact. Although we focused on larger events today, smaller events like meetings provide an excellent opportunity to highlight waste diversion initiatives to colleagues and peers, even if this just means ensuring that there are recycling bins in your meeting rooms and anywhere else you have a landfill bin. We recognize making changes and building out recycling bin infrastructure, like we've suggested today, may require a financial investment for your organization. To help alleviate the potential economic burden of implementing recycling at public events, our team at SWACO created the Recycling Event Container Loan Program and the Event Waste Reduction Grant Program. The Event Container Loan Program provides opportunities for local event organizers to reduce event-generated waste through the use of the Clearstream recycling and landfill containers depicted in this photo. If our bins are not available when you request for your event, Kroger also provides cardboard containers for the collection of materials. You just have to stop in and visit one of their service desks. The Event Waste Reduction Grant Program is a competitive grant program that provides reimbursement funding for activities that increase reuse, recycling, and composting, as well as diversion-related outreach and education activities at public events. We are available to assist applicants by discussing opportunities for potential funding under this grant program. Please call me if you're interested in learning more or discussing an idea. 2017 grants have already been awarded. The program will open again in early 2018. You will all receive notification of the next grant cycle and when the application packet is made available on our website. We'd like to highlight some local accomplishments from our 2016 grant recipients that were achieved. The Columbus crew used SWACO funds to purchase Clearstream recycling containers, which were used at Rock on the Range and other events at Montfree Stadium. In 2016, they diverted 17 tons of recyclables at that event. NGCK Food, LLC, purchased recycling flags and Clearstream recycling containers with SWACO funding for the annual Food Truck and Cart Festival. They diverted over 1 ton of recyclables and almost 200 pounds of food waste. They also intend to utilize this equipment at other events they host. These are huge achievements and serve as a great example of what can be accomplished. In addition to these programs, we also are available to attend your event. We've been working hard to increase our visibility in the community in order to educate and increase awareness about diversion opportunities in Franklin County. We have a wide range of activities we conduct with kids and adults while tabling. Please send Alex an email if you're interested in having us attend your event. All right, that was a lot of information, so we're going to wrap up. After this presentation, you'll be prompted to answer a few survey questions. This is to help us improve our resources. Since this is our first round of webinars for this program, we are looking forward to your input on these resources and sincerely appreciate any feedback. So thank you for sharing your valuable time with us today. We can't wait to hear how you'll apply these lessons to increase waste reduction in our community. As a reminder, we will email out a recording and a link to our supplemental Event Waste Reduction Best Management Practices Guide. Now it is time for some Q&A. And the first question asks, can SWACO assist event organizers in any other capacity? So yeah, even if you don't participate in our container loan program or the grant programs, we are more than happy to serve as an educational and collaborative partner in your waste reduction efforts. So please, again, do not hesitate to shoot us an email or give us a call if something comes up. And we have another question about the services that SWACO offers. Someone asked, does SWACO offer volunteers for guarding bins and helping with waste reduction? So at this time, we do not have staffing capacity to assist with this effort, but if you have a green team or if your event plans to form one, you may consider building that in as a volunteer component for participating on your green team. Looks like, oh, we have a lot of questions. Does SWACO provide training for volunteers at these events? So again, we currently do not have capacity to provide training for volunteers on waste reduction. However, our materials can be used to educate your volunteers, and if it would be of use, we can explore creating like a standard PowerPoint for your use, if it would be helpful. So if you think that would be helpful, please let us know in the survey, and we'd be happy to further explore that as another resource to provide to you all. All right, another question we've received is, I'm a for-profit company. Can I use SWACO's recycling drop-off program? Yes, so SWACO has a number of 8 cubic yard recycling drop-off containers located around Franklin County, and you certainly can use those. Since it's an event, though, we do ask if the bins become full or if they look like they're going to fill during your event, that you call us ahead to let us know, and then that way we can get them serviced to ensure that they're not overflowing and things don't end up on the ground. And one way to really help us out with ensuring they don't fill too quickly is always breaking down those cardboard boxes. That's really critical for our program, even though it's a free offering, but again, as Alex mentioned, it's also really critical to the success of your programs and ensuring your bins don't overflow. All right, and it looks like, oh, what restrictions does the health department have for water bottle refill stations? That's an interesting question. I am not aware of any restrictions for water bottle refill stations. Alex, have you ever had?
I've never heard of any. I mean, water fountains are basically that same thing, and there are no health restrictions around offering water fountains, to my knowledge. So I'd imagine it wouldn't be anything dramatic, but we'll follow up, you know, with the health department to see if there's anything. And if you've had that issue, Jeremy, definitely let us know if people have told you that it is a concern, because we would definitely like to know about that. So thanks for your questions, everybody. We really appreciate you tuning in, and can't wait to hear your feedback in the survey. So as soon as we end this webinar, it should pop up on your screen. Thanks in advance for filling that out, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.
Thanks so much.
Have a good one.